you want to kill bosses fast, destroy mobs of enemies with AoE skills, and gain access to self-healing capabilities, I'm going to show you exactly which skills, gems, and passives you should be prioritizing for mid to end game. Now, if you just started Path of Exile 2 and you're looking for an early game build for your monk, I would recommend watching my previous video, which focuses primarily on Act 1 and breaks down the best combinations of early game skills to use. This video is a follow-up for my previous build, which means it's going to be introducing new skills, different synergies, and will provide more sources for obtaining energy charges to give you maximum damage potential with your lightning skills. Act 2 felt like a breeze with this build. I was literally flying through the stages and just absolutely destroying anything that got in my way. The real challenge you'll run into in Act 2 specifically is the final boss, Jamanra the Abomination. Even though this boss uses lightning abilities and is highly resistant to lightning damage, I was still able to destroy him with this lightning monk build, and that's because I was playing aggressive. With this build, you can honestly kill anything, any enemy or boss, as long as you apply enough pressure and leave very little room for the bosses to initiate their deadliest attacks. I have to say, so far this build has very high DPS, quick stun capabilities, and will make you deadly in close range and long range. The main skills you'll be using on this build are Killing Palm, Falling Thunder, Siphoning Strike, Storm Wave, Tempest Spell, Tempest Flurry, Charge Staff, and Herald of Thunder. Killing Palm is a fist skill you will use to kill enemies who are low and have a blue orb above their head. Now, whenever you kill an enemy who has this blue orb, they'll replenish 12% of your health, and you will also gain an energy charge, which can be stacked up to 3 times. Falling Thunder is a lightning AoE attack that spreads lightning in front of you and hits multiple targets at once. This skill should only be used when you have energy charges active, because Falling Thunder consumes the energy charges to give you more damage, extra range, and a wider AoE, making Falling Thunder one of your deadliest skills when you activate it with max charges. Siphoning Strike is another skill on the build that provides energy charges. If you remember from my last video, I mentioned that Killing Palm wasn't a good skill for bosses because it required you to kill enemies in order to buff Falling Thunder, essentially making it a useless combo for boss fights. Well, once you reach Act 2, you'll gain access to Siphoning Strike, which allows you to stack energy charges every time you hit a shocked enemy with the skill. This means you will now be able to use Falling Thunder on bosses at its max potential, which is incredible. Killing Palm provides energy charges when you kill enemies with a blue orb over their head, and Siphoning Strike provides energy charges when you deal damage to enemies who are shocked. This means you now have 2 sources for building energy charges on the build instead of just 1 like previously. Storm Wave shoots a stream of lightning in front of you, allowing you to hit through multiple targets. This skill actually deals a lot of damage and can be used to apply shock to enemies from range to avoid getting hit with their melee skills. It is the perfect preparation skill for Killing Palm and Siphoning Strike. Tempest Spell is one of the best early game skills, and it continues to be your deadliest tool even for mid to end game. This skill drops a resonating bell on the ground that deals AoE damage when hit, and will also spread elemental attacks if you hit the bell from range with Storm Wave, for example. What really makes this skill powerful though is the stun potential, and when you pair Tempest Bell with Tempest Flurry, it becomes the deadliest skill combo on the entire build. Tempest Flurry unleashes a series of quick, lightning-infused melee attacks that are perfect for spreading AoE on your Tempest Spell. The quicker you strike the bell, the faster the AoE will spread. This means you can stun bosses quickly because you'll fill up their stun meter faster thanks to Tempest Flurry. To be honest, it's the most versatile skill, and it's the skill I use the most on this build. Charge Staff is a skill you will unlock towards the end of Act 2 and is easily one of the coolest skills in the game. Once you stack energy charges on the build, you can choose to consume them for Falling Thunder, or you can consume them to infuse your staff with lightning, which will let you shoot lightning projectiles with all of your attacks for a short period of time. This skill is perfect for clearing mobs, especially when you funnel them in a line, since the skill will phase through enemies and attack multiple targets at once. Charge Staff is extremely satisfying to use. It looks awesome on screen, makes you deadly from range, and deals massive amounts of damage. The last skill in this build is a spirit skill called Herald of Thunder. Now, I know I didn't mention this clearly in my previous video, but in order to unlock this skill, you need an uncut spirit skill gem. This skill is actually very important for the build if you want the maximum amount of AoE potential, because it releases lightning bolts around the area that deal damage to enemies every time you kill a shocked enemy. So honestly, it's just an effortless way to add more damage to the build, and you only need 30 spirit to activate it. I still have raised shield on this build, and for those of you who didn't watch my previous video, I do have a shield as my secondary, which is giving me access to this skill. This means whenever I feel overwhelmed, I can use this skill, pull out my shield, block all damage until my stun meter fills up, and breaks my stance. For the Falling Thunder skill gems, we still have Perpetual Charge and Enervate. Perpetual Charge adds a 35% chance for you to not consume any energy charges when casting Falling Thunder, and Enervate adds 35% of your damage as lightning damage to your staff when you kill a shocked enemy. For killing Palm, I'm using Life Drain, which recovers 12% of your health for each enemy you kill, which is nice for extra survivability. And I'm also using the Perfusion gem, which applies a 50% chance for you to gain multiple energy charges in a single hit. This is good because the quicker you reach max charges, the deadlier Falling Thunder and Charge Staff will be. I'm not using any skill gems at the moment for Siphoning Strike, since it's only used to stack energy charges, but I'm sure this will change as I get further into the game. I wanted to add some extra damage to Storm Wave, so I added the Lightning Infusion gem, which adds 25% extra lightning damage to the skill. For Tempest Spell, I have the Ruthless gem, which causes 500% more stun buildup for every 5th use of the skill, which, if you time correctly, can be very effective against enemy bosses, especially when you're spamming them. I'm also using Magnified Effect for 40% extra AoE, allowing me to hit more targets in a wider radius when I strike the bell. For Herald of Thunder, I have the Precision gem for now, which will add more accuracy to the lightning bolts, allowing them to hit more targets, and Concentrated Effect, which adds 40% more damage to the lightning bolts, but decreases AoE radius by 50%. So far, Tempest Flurry is the only skill with 3 gem sockets, and this is mainly because it's the skill you will be using the most. First gem we have is Conduction, which adds a 100% chance to shock enemies with this skill, which is important because every time you hit shocked enemies with Siphoning Strike, you'll gain an energy charge, and you'll also activate Herald of Thunder more often. I added the Martial Tempo gem to increase my attack speed by 25% with the skill, and then the Overpower gem, which adds 50% more stun buildup to Tempest Flurry. I don't have any gems for Charge Staff, but this will most likely change as I get closer to endgame and then complete the story. For my passive skill tree progress, I really wanted to focus on maximizing my damage, increasing my life on kill, stacking evasion, and maximizing the potential of my lightning attacks. For Ascendancy, you will be choosing the Invoker, and as of right now, I haven't made any progress to this tree because I just started Act 3, but for my next video, expect a full breakdown of the Ascendancy and the skills that I'm going to unlock here. Flow Like Water and Step Like Mist are really good passives to grab early because they increase attack speed, mana regen, movement speed, and increase dexterity and intelligence, which are your 2 main stats in the build, and should be increased whenever possible. After Step Like Mist, I recommend branching out to the right here and grabbing all of the nodes up until Taste for Blood, which is an incredible passive for more survivability. This passive gives you 20 extra life per enemy killed and applies a 2% chance to instantly replenish your health whenever you kill an enemy. After Flow Like Water, you should grab all of these nodes here, where you will eventually reach Essence of the Storm, which increases your lightning damage and shock chance. It's also worth grabbing the passives above, which will lead you to the Power Within passive that increases your crit damage after you gain a power charge and gives you up to 4 power charges instead of 3. This whole area right here will increase your power charge duration by 60%. And lastly, I wanted to add faster mana regeneration to the build since the skill consumes a lot of mana and requires you to spam skills during boss fights. So I went with the Conservative Casting passive, which increases mana regeneration rate by nearly 40% when all of these nodes are activated. I'm going to skip gear for now. I'm going to go more in depth with that and the passive skill tree once I complete the game and I dive into endgame. My next build update might take a little bit longer than this one because I want to give you guys a mid-max monk build, or at least something close that you can rely on for all of the endgame content. I know many of you wanted an updated version of this build, so hopefully this helps. If you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, and if you want to see future updates to this build and more builds for different classes in the future, make sure you subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. Thanks for watching, everyone.